This is the Giraffes Don't Eat Steak podcast, a show that brings you marketing stories, tips, hints, and much more. A treat for those who want to succeed in business or marketers who just want to learn. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning, Erica.
How are you today?
Very well, thank you. And yourself?
All good, all good. Today, I am so excited to have brought to our podcast Becks Neale, who is a designer that I have been, wow, how long has it been, Becks? Two,
Oh,
3 years
yeah, it's quite a few years now, isn't it?
we've been connected. We belong to the same mastermind group. So we've been getting into each other's businesses, and just recently we've started putting some briefs together. But also, Bex is the mastermind behind our Giraffes Don't Eat Steak podcast graphic. So been part of us for a long time.
Yeah, it was very exciting to work on it.
A big part of the podcast already.
Yeah.
Welcome, Bex.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. So you and Alex are both designers, and so I always find myself on the back foot in these kind of conversations because sometimes the conversation goes over my head because pretty is not my thing. Functional is my thing. But one of the places you and I have connected over the last couple of months actually is sustainability, Bex, because that's a
Definitely.
huge passion of yours. Tell us a bit more about
Definitely.
that.
Yeah, so I started, I think it was like last year, I did the sustainability course with Cambridge University. So it's all online, but it's just a real deep dive into how marketing has such a significant role to play within sustainability and where it came from in the past, where it was very much about driving wants, making people want more. Yeah, really sort of driving this whole business as usual and just really tipping the balance. So it's not really taking into account people's feelings, people's well-beings. It's just actually the drive for profit. Whereas now, we believe that marketing can be used very purposefully to really make a difference in people's lives. So it's not about more and more. It's actually about meaningful and connection and actually restoring. So there's that whole balance with living, working in balance with nature.
We
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
and
see
I
that a
know,
lot.
yeah, definitely. And I know we have done it as well. Erica, we did the carbon literacy project
Yep.
training this year as well. So that's been a real sort of re-energizer and just a real light opener as well as some of the stats and figures that are coming about actually the extent of the damage that has been done already, but then a real sense of hope of what we can do to restore it.
We did an episode called "Does Sex Still Sell?" And it has kind of a similar vibe to what we're talking about now. There was a time where you just put a lady in not very many clothes on a car or on front of the advert, and you get sales, boom, 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 boom. But now there's a shift between to values. What does your business stand for? What are its values? Is that something the customer's going to buy? And um, ethical, what ethically responsible acts is your business doing per transaction that you're doing with a customer? Those
Mm.
kind of things are becoming a lot more valuable to consumers now, as opposed to kind of superficial advertising and as you said, appealing to the wants more to now as it's shifted to the values of the person. Does the business align with my values?
Definitely. And it's such an amazing sort of way to attract like-minded people, whether it's clients, whether it's talent to join your team or collaborations. It's just when you've got those shared values, I just find that their energy just absolutely lifts in the room and on the projects that you're working with. So it makes such a significant difference. And knowing that you're making a bigger impact beyond the design brief, I call it. So just making that a bigger impact that's going to go on to help other people's lives. It just makes it so meaningful and purposeful for the work that I work on.
So when you're with the work that you're doing, how are you implementing kind of more of a sustainable approach? Is it through the clients that you're deciding to work with? Is it the way that you interpretate briefs, or like what is it that you're kind of doing specifically to maintain that
Yeah, so it's
sustain?
a bit of a mix. So I'm purposely looking for brands that put nature and humanity first. I absolutely love working on those projects because it's having such a massive impact both within for wildlife, for nature, restoring well-being, but also the same for people and making equality. So I've got a whole range of different clients doing amazing things out there, and there's all these amazing stories of hope that we get to share. But also it's where I can influence some of the decisions. So in design brief, perhaps it's the type of printing that needs to be done. Is there a way that we can do it more sustainably? Sort of thinking about the different finishes and yes, all that goodness, like the quantities that they need. So where I've got that influence, I can help inspire that. Or, is it that this project actually needs this amount of resources? Can we streamline that down and make it really, really impactful with what we're working on? So it just depends on the client and yeah, the level of involvement that they would like me to get involved in.
And it's an interesting angle that you and I have had quite a long chat about in terms of our impact, both as suppliers and consumers.
Mm,
And from marketing perspective, especially Alex and myself, where it's customer first, right? That's our mandate, and we believe that consumers are driving the change, and probably not enough, but it's coming. The wave is happening more and more and more. I mean, smoking is a classic example. We've discussed it. It wasn't even that long ago where smoking was everywhere. Like it was on airplanes, in restaurants, and like it was everywhere. And now it's nowhere, right? And that it was definitely not the tobacco companies who were driving that change. It probably wasn't even the medical companies because they make money out of sick people. It was consumers that forced it in the end, right? But it started off slowly, before smokers hung on,
yeah.
fought for their right to smoke, like it was a big thing. But then, in a blink of an eye, it's all shifted. So I think the same with sustainability. It's on that path. There's for now a small cohort of people that are, they're called activists, and who are really pushing that. But I'm seeing it in the younger generation now. My kids are much more aware than I ever was about, about these things. And so as they grow up and become consumers themselves, this is the mindset they're bringing, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Um, so that's the consumer side, but there's also our power as suppliers, which I love the way you described it, is you are a supplier and you can direct. So even though your client may not be steering that conversation through how you deal with them, you can direct and advise and have an influence. And I think we forget that power that we have as
Mm,
suppliers
yeah.
to make that change in the world.
Yeah, and I think, like you say, a large part of it is this kind of the scale of awareness. So where people are at, is trying to meet them where they're at and just inspire them to just small actions that they can take. Because I'm definitely a believer of that, once you take one action, you can't stop. You're just going to keep on going and want to, yeah, just make all the difference and the impacts that you can keep doing. And it's but there's just so many different levels in there because there's quite a lot of this kind of an unconsciousness about it that people aren't really recognizing it or seeing it as a problem. But then you kind of get them into that sort of more state of they're aware of it but don't know how to do it. And then they've got the educational piece where, they're actually aware of it and they are starting to do more things to where we want to get everyone to is that state where they're just doing everything unconsciously. So they're really competent and they know about it, but it's all happening just as part of the way of living. It's just part of them. And it's very much the same with the brand. You really want to help people to live out those values through everything that they're saying and doing. So it's not just words on a website. It's actually, you can see it through what they're talking about, the projects that they're working on, but also their involvement within the community. Yeah, sort of everything that encompasses their whole sort of ecosystem, the way the team talks about it and becomes advocates. So it just has this amazing kind of energy that flows through everything. And the very sort of center of that is purpose. Because that just is like a really refined thread that just ties everything so beautifully together. And it also helps to steer the direction and help them to make the decision. So everything is very much aligned with those values. So it's, yeah, when you can find what people are really passionate about and help them to actually see that as the bigger picture and then infiltrate that through everything they're doing, it's quite magical.
It's like the actions speak louder than words saying, right?
Definitely.
We also did another episode on greenwashing, and where you have a lot of words but not a lot of action. And if you look deeply into what they're really doing, it's not really backing up what they're saying. So, but how did this when and how did this start for you? Because in terms of the sustainability side, because I think sometimes there's a trigger in someone's life or in the world or whatever that makes them change their philosophy of the way they work. Or have you always been like this? Or how did it start for you?
Yeah, I've always been, I guess, fairly conscious of it all, sort of growing up. And I remember in sort of middle school, we had Jane Goodall come and talk with
Yeah,
our
you.
class. Jane Goodall. So she was working with the apes, really
Gorillas.
understanding, yeah, really understanding sort of how they connect with each other, the relationships that they have, and just this incredible nature connection. And I was just in awe when she was there. I remember writing her a letter afterwards. I want to come work with you when I'm older. So
And she
she
was
was,
fun.
yeah, she was a big inspiration for me. And but I think throughout sort of my work, I've always had that kind of lean towards the charity sort of sector, wanting to get involved and be able to make a difference. It's just that sense of fulfillment for me. I think in terms of within my actual work, it probably all came to head sort of with the lockdown, because I just noticed such a significant impact in my own well-being, as many other people were, but also that real importance of what nature means to you and the effects that it has on your well-being as well. So I think that was like a big, like, actually, is there something I can do through my work with this? And that was where my little Kit the dog illustration started coming out. He's often in yellow welly boots. You'll see him around on social media and LinkedIn. But it was about inspiring actions that you can take, because at the time with lockdown, it was very much, everyone was talking about, oh, we can't do this, and we're not allowed to do this anymore. It was all really, really negative. And it's like, we need to reframe this, we need to flip it. So it was really focusing on simple actions that we could do, but just that things that just bring you joy, and getting out into nature when you can. If you've got a garden space, what can you do within there to attract nature? So it's just, yeah, just trying to empower people to see something different. And then that for me sort of is, yeah, I guess the main trigger for the journey with wanting to learn more about sustainability, the whole cause and the effects that's going on, how we've had a significant role as humans, and our activities within that. But yeah, so I think you can never stop learning. Every day's a school day. Wanting to do as much as I can, learn as much as I can, but also inspire as much action that I can.
And then you've also got is it a field or
Meadow.
a
A meadow.
meadow that you're working on? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so when we moved from Dorset back in 21, and there was an area outside the front of the house which was just down to grass. So what we thought we would do is turn it into a little mini orchard meadow. So God, I can see it from my studio window, which is really nice. But so we let it, for the first year, we just let it rewild, just to see what grew there. And then we had to do a lot of learning of, like, how do you actually look after a meadow? What do you need to do? And sort of how do you give nature that space? So some of it was about scarifying it all so that we were reducing the amount of grass in there to help encourage the wildflowers to grow up. We did put some seeds down. So it's been sort of about 3 years in the making. And this year we had amazing, well, we've had quite a few people stopping when we're out there doing bits and pieces out in the garden, sort of saying how much they love it and really appreciate what we're doing, keep up the good work. And then around No May May, we'd again sort of left it and it was just full of buttercups around that time. So it was really beautiful to see. But one evening we suddenly had a knock on the door with somebody we'd never met before, but they was like, please, can I take a photo of it? Because I really want to share it with my brother, because I've been trying to encourage him to do something like this for ages for No May May. So it was just like, oh, these actions, You
That's
know, no matter
awesome.
how small you think it is, it has a knock-on effect and it inspires other people to take action. So yeah, so that's we will keep it going and see what comes up next year.
Oh,
Well,
that's
also
wonderful.
the thing that
Awesome.
you said about COVID, so we're kind of going on a bit of a tangent now, but it's fine. Um, the impact, the change that we all saw within our immediate surroundings and the things we saw globally that happened when everybody kind of dropped everything and
Mm,
didn't really move from their house, didn't get in the cars, didn't get in the airplanes, didn't turn the factories on. Actually, how quickly nature bounced back,
Yeah.
and that just showed, and that's quite a large scale example, but just what you were saying about creating your meadow or just talking about what paper to print on, etc., etc., etc. They all do make an impact. And
mm,
if we're all doing something individually, it might not make a huge impact. You personally in the globe, if everybody's doing it, it's almost like a,
yeah.
a, a COVID thing again, where everybody stops or everyone's done something, and then you start seeing things return. So nature return, the fish returning to the rivers of Venice.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. Yeah, and
yeah,
there's so many areas I'd love to be able to, yeah, get involved in and just try and restore because there's lots of the with the rivers at the moment as well, like how polluted they are. So it's kind of, yeah, I would love to see those all restored. So we've got the wildlife thriving there, but there's just so much um getting sort of ploughed into them from the fields, from just yeah, so much pollution. And I know sort of locals have been measuring to see what the levels are at the moment. But I think water is such a vital part of the ecosystem. So yeah, I think there's going to be hopefully some collaborations that we can get involved in and make a bit of a difference.
and as a designer in the digital world, are there any tips that you have for people to keep your digital world sustainable? Because I think there's one thing that people actually do not realize is that there are a lot of energy consuming digital platforms. I mean, AI, for example. I mean,
Mm,
everybody's using AI now, but AI it uses a hell of a lot of energy. And even things like the search engines, are you using search engines that are going straight to Google's pocket, or are you using search engines that are going to plant trees or help the whales in the oceans? Because there's lots of those options. I was just wondering if there's any platforms that people are using regularly that you found alternatives for, or anything like that in the digital world.
yeah, I mean, I think, like you say, with the digital kind of emissions, it's very unseen, so it's quite easily missed. So there's things like Ecosia, which is a yeah browser that helps plants trees every time you search on there. That's always a really good one to have a look at. But also with terms of your hosting your websites to make sure it's with a green host, so they're powered by renewable energies and that they're doing good things behind, and you can get accreditations for that to show and prove. So going back to that, greenwashing element, you're providing validation that this is, what you've signed up for. This is what you've got in place to help cover that. And I think the other thing is just to be really careful with well, it's hard for for your marketing side of things. With videos, it's like, can you keep them really sort of short and succinct? Because videos are one of the biggest sort of
Energy consumers.
that's the one, the energy consumers for that. And so it's just how that's being used. So a good way of slight way of going around it was of hosting a lot of those on YouTube itself, and then just using links so it's not hosted in on your website and it's not hosted in various different platforms. So you're always directing it to one place. So yeah, you haven't got the same file in multiple. But yeah, it's just sort of things about being really careful of that, and sort of the sizes of images is one of the bigger ones for on websites, just trying to keep everything to the size it needs to be rather than let's just go as big as we can and get it on there. So
Yeah.
it's just being really sort of
And
conscious of.
what about AI? I mean, this is a question for both of you. I actually don't know the answer. Is there, I mean, we're all using ChatGPT or Claude or what's the other one from Google? Lost it now in my mind, but are we just still in the beginnings of the technology and no one's really thinking about the green side of AI yet? Or do we know if there's any greener versions of AI search tools that we're using?
I
Or
don't
it's
Well,
have
just,
green
on,
versions at the moment.
yeah, on the course we were on, they just gave a an assumption because it hasn't been measured yet on how much ChatGPT, for example, is consuming.
Mm,
But it's too new. It hasn't been properly measured, and therefore a contender hasn't risen because that's
yeah.
a problem has to be identified usually before someone steps up going, "Hey, I'm different." So I think
yeah.
it's probably still, I mean, what
I mean,
reality a couple of months, right?
Yeah, definitely. And to
we're,
It's
think,
just
we're
exploded.
It's still just on that curve of everyone's excited about the technology and they're just trying to get the most out of it and the most value from it, which is, it is what we're kind of programmed to do, I guess. Like, what's the biggest financial thing for me before we could start thinking about sustainability? That's kind of probably what a lot of the companies are thinking about right now. Make the most effective tool before we think about
yeah,
it.
I think it's using it with intention as well, because part of the perhaps led brand is very much about the content that you're putting out there is being authentic and building these relationships, which AI can't, I hope, ever can compete with that sort of human element of it. And I know I've had on different courses that I've been on where they're saying they've been on a panel sort of reviewing applications for awards or grants and things like that, and they can tell instantly when that application is being created by AI.
Yeah,
They end up having sort of like two or three sound very, very similar. So those are just,
but
thrown straight out. So
mm,
I think it's got to be, yeah, if it can help you save time, I think that's a really good thing to sort of use it for, also for like in the research side of things. But the final thing needs to be really, really by you going
Have you been
through.
using any AI for design or any like do you use it at all in, I don't know, maybe idea generation or anything?
No,
Is
I've
it, you use it design
used it
point
just
of
for a little bit of research, just to kind of get through just some initial areas I want to sort of explore along a theme. But that's kind of to the sort of extent I've used it for. I know some people use it for trying to summarize. So if they've had a load of sort of questionnaires they sent out or feedback they want to go through, there's ways that you can use it to really kind of like summarize the content that's
yeah.
come back from. So that could, imagine if you had hundreds and hundreds, that's going to take you ages to go through. Whereas AI can help in that respect, so that you're then using your time for what you do best,
Yeah,
rather
that's
than
true.
some of those elements of that. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I just used it for a survey we did. We had something like 3,000 data points or something. And I'm not looking through every single one of those data points and analyzing it myself to go into AI, and it came out with all of the data for me. But it's very helpful from that point of view.
Mm.
Research point is very, very powerful.
So Bex, if anyone wants to get hold of you to do any awesome designs or just talk through sustainability, I'm sure you're open to that chat as well. How do they get
Definitely.
hold of you?
Yeah, you can head on to my website, which is simply my name, becksneale.co.uk, or find me on LinkedIn. And yeah, absolutely more than happy to chat.
Awesome. And yeah, our giraffe loves you too. So
Thank
that's been
you.
good.
And are you
Any
going to be opening tours of your meadow?
Well, I think yeah, we might consider that next year.
any last tips you want to leave for our listeners? Any encouragement on starting the sustainability journey or anything they need to think about?
Yeah, definitely. I think try and start with something that you can actually get involved in. So whether it's something within the community, a project there, or something in your, in your garden, whether it's at work or at home, just something you can really experience for yourself. Because I think again that connection with nature is really important. And take it from there. Follow your purpose to be your guiding star to influence the decisions and the actions that you start working on with your teams.
Fabulous. Any last words, Alex?
Um, No, I just think that there's lots of things in the world that you can't control and you can worry about forever and ever and ever, but that doesn't really help anything at the end of the day. But there are a few things in your small realm of your world that you can change that can make a difference either to your immediate environment or can inspire others to do the same. Like the meadow.
Like the meadow. Fantastic. Well, thanks, guys, for another awesome chat. And I'm sure we'll see each other again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Becks.
Bye.
That wraps up this episode of Giraffes Don't Eat Steak. Thanks for joining us. I hope you found value in our discussion and got some new ideas to apply to your own business. Tune in next week for another round of marketing insights and inspiration. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We appreciate you listening. Catch you next time on Giraffes Don't Eat Steak.